Good day, everybody. Trey Ratcliff here with another video on my endless quest with my recommendations. Everything from books to movies, documentaries to podcasts. I'm kind of focusing on books right now. And today I'm going to talk about Dr. Michael Newton's Journey of Souls and the Life Between Lives. I'm here in New Zealand as usual. I'm trying to go on a different hike every day. I'll bring you with me. Sometimes they're not hikes, sometimes they're just kind of saunters, really, to be honest. Sometimes they're kind of flat and cruisy, sometimes they're quite vertical. But I've got so many books to review and so many things to share with you. If you watched my last video, I went through my 4 starter books if you're interested in, any kind of awakening or going through some kind of spiritual awakening on your own, or interested in just having a more zen, serene lifestyle, making sense of reality and what the heck's going on. So Journey of Souls was my gateway drug, and I think it's actually a great starter book for everybody. And it was written by this psychotherapist who, this is an older book. I don't know, older by, like 20, 25 years, something like that. I'm not exactly sure. And like everyone that I mentioned in yesterday's video, and actually everyone that's in my list, they all were trained as doctors, as traditional psychotherapists. And a lot of them realized that traditional psychotherapy is pretty good, although it doesn't really work for everybody. And a lot of them started to meddle with the dark arts of hypnosis. Just kidding, it's not dark arts, but they get people into another state. And then they would spontaneously start talking about previous lives. And they realized that, it's beautiful here. They realized that a lot of their problems in this life, whether it's medical or anxiety or chronic pains or whatever, isn't really their fault from this life. It might not even be anything from childhood that they repressed or anything. It could just be something from a previous life. In many cases, it was. And so people would go into this incredible detail about previous lives, sometimes multiple previous lives. And these are people that don't really have any interest in this kind of stuff. They might be like accountants or bankers or whatever. They might go back to medieval times, thousands of years before sweet baby Jeebus and all that stuff. But Dr. Michael Newton actually doesn't really focus so much on past lives. He uses past lives as sort of a vehicle to get them into what happens in the life between lives, all right? Or basically what happens after you die. So he takes people to a past life, he kind of fast forwards them to when they die. And apparently people get to choose their own death when they're in the life between lives. And there's often really not much pain when you actually die, especially like in a violent one, like a car crash or something. Your soul actually pops out of your body before you really experience the violence of it, which is good news, I guess. And I think in his first book, he has about 40 case studies, 40 different people that he does this with. And then after they die, the various stages that they go through before they decide to come back to Earth. And, you don't have to choose to come back to Earth at all. You can just hang out up there where it's awesome. It's just all full of love and harmony. There's no judgment. There's no hell, by the way. Some of you will be happy to know. And of course, I got into this after my own near-death experience where I went to the other side for quite a while. But I have other videos on that. And so here are the stages that are consistently told by these 40 different case studies. And in addition, he has a sequel to it called Destiny of Souls, where he has another 50 case studies. And there's no inconsistencies between these stories, and the amount of overlap is 100%. All right, so I think I'll break it down pretty close here, but when you read the book, you'll see. So stage 1, after you die, is there's kind of a welcoming and a party, like, oh, you made it party, right? You just completed your own mission, planet Earth. And you did a great job, and your whole soul family is there. your soul cluster. These are people that you've come down to earth with on many missions before. You tend to kind of clump and cluster together. So like all of your best friends, your lovers, your family, you all have been here many, many times. And oftentimes you change roles to teach each other different lessons and to overcome some of the difficult parts of being human. As we all know, there's many difficult parts down here. But anyway, so you go up there, and then you're often welcomed, immediately by someone that you trust. It could be your guardian angel or your spirit guide. They're kind of your coach. They've been with you through many lives. They're your MVP. They just love you, and you recognize them. You may be welcomed by like a grandfather or grandmother, and you recognize them immediately. You recognize their kind of soul signature. You're like, wow. And then they kind of guide you in because you're going back home to your true home. And that's definitely what I felt when I went to the other side. I was like, that's my real home. And there's often like a welcoming party, right? Sort of an event. It can take many shapes and sizes, and there's like lots of spirit hugging and love, and sometimes the party takes like a visceral kind of tangible kind of thing. There was a story about a guy that died in World War II, and then when he went to his welcome party, it was a British guy, and his welcome party, it was like on the banks of the Seine in France, where he was meeting with his old soldier friends, and they were having wine and good food there in Paris, and they were also happy to see him again. And sometimes it's a big banquet, sometimes it's like a giant rave or Burning Man type party. It could take any kind of thing, but they just love, and it's like so different, and it's hard to compare it to down here because it's just quite special. And you're like, oh, okay, I finally made it back home. That was a rough mission to Earth. And we all choose to come here to Earth because this is like supposedly the hardest school where you learn the most lessons. Okay, but I'll get into that. So stage 2, after you're welcomed back and you start to get back in the groove of being in the spirit world, call it whatever you want, spirit world, heaven, the other side. All this spiritual stuff is quite non-denominational, by the way. Like, not any kind of, born-again Christian or Buddhist or Hindu or anything like that. All religions, and I studied quite a bit of theology and philosophy and all this stuff, they all have a lot of commonalities. There's been a lot of BS that's been thrown into the nonsense to kind of control people or make them afraid, or kind of put men in control of the whole thing, and this kind of weird accidental patriarchal system we have, where everything actually should be balanced. And everything is perfectly balanced up there, of course. So then you go into your life review period stage, okay? And you're there with your spirit guide, your coach. Oh, my arm this is the heaviest selfie stick. It's like holding a bar of iron. So you sit down with your spirit guide, who's like your coach, and you kind of watch this Netflix documentary of your life. And you get to see all these major moments that happened in your life, and you kind of talk about them. Like, why'd you make this decision here? You're like, do a face plant, like, yeah, that was a bad decision. And then you go through all this stuff and you like learn lessons, and like, this is good because this time you came down to earth to overcome, let's say, one of the negative sides of being human, which might be there's all these let's say negative human things like greed or anger or fear or not being able to forgive or whatever. And they say, like, here's a chance where you could have overcome greed, right? And you failed, like, why? But you always get other chances, and here's one where you succeeded, like, congratulations. Again, there's no judgment, there's only love. I'll walk through the vineyard here, I guess. And then not just that, but you get to see alternate timelines. Like, what would have happened had you made this other decision? Some might be minor, some might be major. Like, what if you had not married this woman or not had kids, what would your life look like? Even like silly things, like what if you had gotten like the red car instead of the white car, and maybe it had no effect, maybe it had a big effect. So all these, whenever you make a decision, the other decisions kind of get simulated out. And these are also called the Akashic records. And so you could watch all these various versions of your life, and you kind of sit there with your coach and go through it. And when you watch this Netflix documentary, it's like a 3D type documentary, and you can go into it and you can replay the roles. There's even cases in his books where maybe a guy was like a bully, right, at school, like in, first grade, second grade, and they used to go on the playground and like throw rocks at some of the other kids or whatever. Well, when you go in, you have the chance to play your role, and then you can also go play the role of the kid that was having rocks thrown at. So you really get to see what it was like from their perspective. So it's kind of a chance to learn, I guess. And then after you go through that, which can be, a bit of a lengthy process, but very interesting, and again, just full of love and no judgment, and you're like, oh, then you really get to see things from other people's perspectives. Like, for example, I'd like to think I'm a fairly empathetic person, sympathetic, that I can see things from other people's perspectives, but you can't always really totally see it from their perspective. So you have a chance to do that. And let's say that you were really wronged by people in this life. Like, I've been wronged by many people. I've forgiven them all and moved on, which is actually a great skill to have. Just let things go, man. Like Jack Handy said, if you ever drop your keys in a river of molten lava, let them go, because man, they're gone. So, once you are able to overcome these kind of negative emotions and move on and like move from basically fear into love, that's what we're all here for. You get many chances to do that in life. So after you go through your whole life sesh, then you kind of have like free time, right? And you can do whatever you want. You can go hang out with all your soul friends and your besties, your soulmates, your soul family, and you go have many, many adventures. There are countless planets that you can go visit. There's pleasure planets. There's like water planets where you get to hang out with dolphins and whales. You can just tool around all kinds of spaceships and see everything that's going on in the universe and chill with all the various aliens. So many different types of aliens up there, and we're not going to get into that this time, but they're all here. They're just full of love. They want the best for us. They're helping out Earth. Quite evolved. And like humans, we're kind of some of like the least evolved creatures in the universe. But actually, our soul that's inside is actually quite evolved. We're just having to instantiate or incarnate down here in this very dense 3D Earth to learn some lessons. We chose to, because it makes our souls even stronger. Actually, only the bravest souls, the most courageous souls, choose to come down here to Earth, apparently, because it's, as we all know, it's quite difficult down here sometimes. There's moments of beauty that occasionally interrupt the maelstrom of nihilism. You can even learn to create different things while you're up there. There's all kinds of creation planets where you go learn to like create new sorts of flowers, or you can like build trees, or there's also detailed things about people learning to like create different kinds of fish. They just spend all day and sort of, it's not quite a laboratory, but they kind of manipulate DNA and all kinds of things to make different kind of beautiful fish or plants or whatever. Especially the creative types like doing that sort of thing. You can come back to Earth and see what's going on, just kind of float around. There's lots of them around us right now doing the same thing. We can't see them because they're at a different frequency. Kind of like your radio dial. Let's say your radio dial only goes up to like 107.5 or whatever. Well, think about that in a visual way. Like, what if there's a radio station playing at like 150, right? But your radio dial doesn't go that high. It could be the same way with vision, and that's how we're only able to see inside of a certain frequency. But that's another rabbit hole we won't get into right now, maybe another time. And also up there, there's these incredible universities, for lack of a better word. And they're all quite fun, you know, not like normal school down here, which most people find quite banal, including yours truly, boring and silly. But these schools are actually cool. They're more like a Hogwarts, where you get to go with all your buddies and learn new stuff and maybe kind of prepare yourself for your next time here on Earth. You know, it's kind of like nonstop cool TED Talks where you get to learn all things about emotions and science and astrophysics and quantum stuff, and also up there we have access to our full brain power. Down here, when we come down here, we forget, right? It's kind of part of the amnesia of becoming a human, which makes life a little difficult because we forget everything we learned in our previous lives. You kind of have to relearn it. It's a bit of a drag sometimes, I guess. Yeah, so you hang out there. You can go into the Akashic records, which are kind of like the ultimate library, and get to look in detail at all your past lives or any life that you want to. You know, if you're a history buff like me, I mean, I would just spend all day in there. Like, it's like the History Channel times a million. Like, just imagine like going to see all the detail of Genghis Khan and all the stuff he got up to and see like what actually really happened. You know, go look at World War II stuff, ancient Peloponnesian Wars, what happened in ancient Greece, far ancient Egypt, you name it. So much fascinating stuff. I think I just spend all day in there. And you get to watch it. It's like the ultimate like 3D documentary where you can actually go in and see it from the perspective of any character in history. How awesome would that be? I'd spend all day in there. Probably have. So when you're not goofing around and, you know, joy riding around to other planets with your friends and hanging out in the library or listening to like 12-dimensional symphonies, because, you know, like, you know, the Beethovens and Tchaikovskys and the Princes and the Michael Jacksons who all kind of like graduated up there, they're still making music. And up there you have access to so many more senses than just our 5 senses down here. Maybe a mysterious 6th sense, you know. But up there you have you're so much more sensitive and you can hear so much more. And you know they're up there making more music. Just like I'm a visual artist. Up there I'm going to be up there making more visual art. I'll have access to more tools and it's going to be great. I can't wait. I just often feel so, you know, limited down here. But I do my best like everybody else. And then anyway, so you're just having fun up there. You're happy to be done with Earth. You're like, that was a rough mish. And up there, there's just freedom and love, baby. And then at some point, your soul guide, you know, your coach, will come up to you and say, hey, Trey, don't you think it's about time to go back down to Earth? Because you got some more lessons to learn. Or maybe you also have more lessons to help teach other people. You kind of volunteer to come down here. You're like, I guess I'll go back to Earth. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Again, you don't have to. It's your choice. Apparently, we all roped each other into this thing, which is disconcerting, but also somewhat affirming. Man, I'm gonna have forearms like Popeye soon. This thing is heavy. So then you go with your guide and you go to this thing which consistently amongst these 100 case studies. And by the way, in other books that I've read, I've probably read over 1,000 case studies. The amount of overlap is incredible. So people all call it like the Ring of Destiny, which is the coolest name. So you go into this big room, right? And your soul guide is there and your soul council, which could be 12 people. And these are all people that are assigned to you. And they all want you to make progress and overcome these things to make your soul more pure. And hopefully it's your last time around the wheel so you don't have to be incarnated down here again. And maybe you graduate to being a soul guide yourself and helping other people and get to hang out in that magisterium all the time. And then when you go into this Ring of Destiny, you are presented with like 4 possible lives you can live on Earth. Might be 2, might be 5, it varies. And in some of them, you might be a girl, you might be a guy, Could be an African, could be a Chinese girl, whatever it might be. And so you get to see these let's just say 4 previews, kind of like a movie preview or a Netflix preview of what your life is going to be like. And you just see major events that are going to happen. We still have free will down here, but there's still some set pieces that are going to happen no matter what. Like when you have the chance to marry this person. Again, you get to choose your parents, right? Which is a weird thing to think about. And that maybe you're coming in to teach your parents lessons, or they're having to teach you something that you haven't learned before. Or it's going to make your life extra difficult, so you have to learn things yourself, or learn to be independent and free and not let other people affect you, and kind of live your own life, whatever it might be. And also, all these major people in your life, you have contracts with them that you're coming back in to teach each other lessons. Or maybe you wronged someone in a previous life. Like, I think about this a lot, because sometimes you'll actually come back with a disability. Like, I was born blind in my right eye, and I'm blackout blind. Probably noticed I get cross-eyed quite a bit. Sorry about that. Well, I'm not sorry. I don't have anything to do with it, really. But, it's possible that in a previous life that I wronged someone, so I had to come back with this disability, so I kind of pay back that karma. Maybe I was in a jealous rage, I stabbed someone's eyes out. Who knows? But no, I feel like I've overcome pretty much every negative thing. I'm not a jealous person. I'm not greedy. I have no fear of anything, which is good. Just love and all that stuff. So I think hopefully I've repaid all my karma. I don't know. But yeah, when you come back and you have shitty things that happen to you, sometimes it's just people repaying karma for what you did to them in a previous life. So anyway, you choose your life, like, okay, I'm going to be Trey. I'm going to be a travel photographer, and I'm going to be born in Texas and live there until I'm in my, late 30s, and then I'm going to move to New Zealand, and I'm going to have these friends. I'll meet them along the way, and these are major lessons that I'm going to learn. Here's other ways that I can contribute to the earth. Maybe I can help inspire people with art, or make people happy visually, or teach them things, whatever, don't know. And then, so after you choose that life, and also typically you choose the same sex 75% of the time, but you end up being both types, right? So you really understand what it's like to be a woman or a man, or any race, whatever it might be. And then so once you choose, say, okay, I want to be Trey, travel photographer, blah, blah, blah. And then you go back to meet with your soul cluster, your soul family, who you come on all these missions with. And you say, like, okay, I chose Trey. I'm going to be this dude. Here's the major stuff I'm going to do. And then your soul cluster, they've all chosen their characters, right? Because in a way, this is like a game, like a role-playing game. Like Shakespeare said, we're all actors on a stage, which is quite prescient of him. I don't know how he knew that. And so I go back to my friends, and I say, like, here's what I chose. And they told me what they chose, right? I'm going to be this person. I'm going to meet you at this age and be my girlfriend, or I'm with my son, Ethan. Ethan's going to come in as my son this time around. And here's the kind of adventures we're going to have. And and then also for your friends or lovers or whatever, like, how are we going to find each other when we get down to earth? Because you end up meeting hundreds or thousands of people, but you might notice there's certain people you just attach to. You're like, oh, okay, we have some kind of mission to do together. And so how do we find each other when we get down there? It might be a piece of jewelry, it might be a song, it might be the way people laugh. And then you're like, oh, we need to go on a mission together. So that's how you find each other. You're like, okay, here we go. And then so you're all born maybe on different continents or different cities to different families. And then we come down here and we begin the game of teaching each other lessons and making progress, and hopefully becoming more loving and serene, and everything makes sense over time. And yeah, I think there's actually quite a big awakening right now going on around the planet. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole. I'll save that for one of the other books. Probably some of the ones that I mentioned in the last video. All right, so anyway, Dr. Michael Newton, Journey of Souls. And I think even if you don't really believe in reincarnation and all that kind of stuff, you'll still find these to be fascinating stories. You could even think about it as some kind of fictionalized fiction story if you want to, even though it's all totally true. I think so, at least. And that's not just me wanting to think it's true. I think after reading, well over 1,000 of these case studies and looking at the consistency of it and how they all overlap, to me, it's basically scientific. And this is coming from someone that was a lifelong atheist until I started playing with psychedelics and ayahuasca and having my own NDE. Changed man. All right, hope you enjoyed the book. Feel free to leave comments, let me know what you think. And I'm not sure what I'll do for the next video, but you'll know as soon as I know. Okay, I love you guys. See ya. Bye.